Western civilization is moving closer to a point of irreconcilable, unstable equilibrium, as frighteningly increasing numbers of people trust nothing. Media, academia, and especially the governments are no longer held in high esteem. Regaining trust is often impossible after betrayal. However, transparency is essential to any healing process, and that is the essence of the Don Sullivan Show. Please listen to the team explore, probe, and debate cutting-edge science, technology, and computing. Play ball!
Welcome to a very special episode of the Don Sullivan Show. As you can hear, Don is currently on the road, and you're going to learn more about that very shortly. I'm your co-host, Jersey Steve. First, we want to thank our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by License Fortress, the industry's first and only software asset management firm to offer both a financial and legal guarantee at its highest level of service. Whether it's Oracle, Microsoft, or VMware, License Fortress helps organizations stay compliant, avoid audits, and save money. You can learn more at licensefortress.com. And please support our producer, our wonderful producer, Bill Axt, by visiting axtinc.com. That is AXTINK.com. You can subscribe to his YouTube channel and help support his efforts to create humorous animation, as well as run our website, all while researching a cure for baldness.
Well, folks, here we are today on the base of Kilimanjaro. In fact, legitimately the Kibo base camp, right at about 15,000 feet plus. I was really worried this morning that it was going to rain. There was a lot of thunder. I thought it was going to do more than rain. I thought it was going to hammer us. But it didn't. So we lucked out. Went about 6 miles at 15,000 feet. We're just above that here. Although I'm not sure of the exact number. So this is day 7 of the hike, day 9 of the trek. And we're about 40 degrees. Not too bad wind. Probably going to get rain later. I've had rain on every day of this trip. I do recommend that you go in the dry season if you do decide at some point in your life to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I was under the impression that the rainy season didn't start till March, and apparently it's significantly early. But in the time frame from June, which is the beginning of their season, through October, it seems to be much more dry. And then as you get into the November, December, January time frame, it's a little drier as well. But believe me, it hasn't been dry. It's rained every single day we've been on this trip so far. It's amazing views overall. The clouds move in and out so fast, and we are looking straight up at a 4,000 foot climb, which will start at 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. Hopefully get us up to the top at 19,300 plus feet. Tomorrow morning, we're hoping for around 11 a.m. We will be with the entire group of 6 people that we have with us, along with the amazing porters and guides. And then we will descend into the Kilimanjaro crater to stay at the famous crater camp, which will apparently be really cold. So, but aren't too many times in your life you get to actually stay in a crater that's full of ash and is about 5 miles wide in diameter. So we will do that. So not much more for this segment. Obviously, we're pretty tired. I think I sound pretty lucid, given the fact that I keep getting up 4 or 5 times a night and getting back into the tent without falling over myself, and getting up early, eating a lot more than I probably should. Believe it or not, I may actually gain weight on this trip, but we will see. So hopefully the next time you hear me, the next segment, we will have summited, and we'll be down in Crater Camp, and I'll get back to you then. And I'll have everybody yell and scream and celebrate, and we'll see how it goes. So for this segment of this episode of the Don Sullivan Show. We will talk tomorrow. So, see ya. Well, hello, folks. It's Don back. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, and we're heading out. Holy cow. Sky is beautiful. It's extremely cold, and it's extremely dark. And here we are heading up this mountain. And without a headlamp, I couldn't see my fingers in front of my face. It's supposed to take us about 4 hours from 15,000 feet to get up to the Gilman Point, which is little rock scramble all the way directly up from this camp that we're at, and permanent camp. And then we will move along the ridge of the crater of Kilimanjaro for about 1.5 miles or so. And we will get, hopefully, if I don't have something else happen, we will get to the top at 19,300 feet. So let me pause now, and I'll get back to you in about 2 or 3 hours if I can actually press the buttons on this recorder. Hi, folks, again. It's Don. We're about halfway up. My hands are absolutely freezing. I have an infection in one of my fingers, and I didn't bring mittens. And the sun still hasn't totally come up yet, but man, we have some pictures of the sun trying to come up that are absolutely incredible. It's about 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're moving at a very reasonably good pace. These leaders, or the hike leaders, the trip leaders, are amazing. How adept they are, knowing exactly how much, I'm really a little bit disoriented and having trouble breathing. But they're very, very good at knowing how much you can take and how much you should break and so on. So let me pause here now, and I'll get back on our next break. Hello, folks. It's Don again. Guess where we are? We're right below the rim, over 18,000 feet, and I'm having trouble catching my breath. A damn Cardiaval again. I'm feeling pretty good overall. My legs are strong. Everybody else walking here is strong. My lungs feel strong, but I just can't catch my breath. And that could cause a problem. But when we get going here, we're going to get up to the rim, and we're going to walk along the rim. And I'm not going to tell anybody of this particular issue because I know how it works. And hopefully I won't cause anybody any real problems. Hi, folks. Don again. The sun's completely out, and it's probably about 30 degrees now. My one finger on my right hand is terribly frozen. I've got a little bit of an infection in it, damn diabetic infections. So probably having both of these issues is not a good idea. But we are at the rim, and we are just under 19,000 feet. Still having trouble catching my breath, but fortunately from here is about 1.5 miles to the actual peak of Kilimanjaro. And I will be able to walk slowly and allow this to calm down. So I'll be able to catch my breath. I think it's going to be fine. It's so cold coming up. And now that the sun's out, we can see into the crater. And it looks to me like there's 3 or 4 different craters that correspond with different eruptions over time. One deeper than the other, and they're absolutely spectacular. I'll try to post some pictures. Sorry about that. I'll try to post some pictures when we get I get to a point where I can send these pictures off. But for now, the weather's good. It's over 30 degrees. I'm calming down a little bit, my respiratory system that is, and we have about another hour to go before we get to the top. Well, hi again, folks. Guess what? I not only caught my breath that I've made a fool out of myself celebrating like a New Jersey high school graduation party, because guess what? We made it. He made it all the way to 19,300 feet, the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, the high point of Africa. Absolutely amazing. Incredible stuff overall. I took lots and lots of pictures. My breathing is calmed down now. We're going to walk back down. The weather's pretty good. And this is a very exciting moment for me, because this will be the high point, literally the high point of my life. I will likely never go any higher than that. But we're here, showing us here, taking a lot of pictures and having a lot of fun for the moment. Okay, folks, we're on the way down, and it's really steep, and it's really rocky, and it's going to be up to 3 hours to get all the way down to our next camp for the night. And guess what? It just started snowing. It's not really snow. It's that ice, sleet, snow kind of combination. It makes the ground all wet and you all wet, but it's really, really cold at the same time. So, oh gosh, we got really lucky at the time we were at the rim. But now, let's just stop here to do a little bit of recording. It is brutal out right now. Hi again, folks. A couple hours later, it took us about 3 hours to get down. We're absolutely drenched. It's still snowing in the camp. At the bottom, it took us, like I said, about 3 hours. We came down over 4,000 feet. And we are done with this day 8 of this amazing Kilimanjaro hiking, trekking adventure. And we did get to the top, and we got down without any injuries, which should have happened, because when the ice or the snow becomes sleet and sticks to the rocks, which are pretending to be a trail, and it's very, very crowded, it's pretty amazing how you can get down without falling, without really getting hurt. I'm utterly amazed at the technical skill, the graciousness, the caring that all the people that work, not just for the company that I'm with, but the many other companies that run tours up Kilimanjaro. It is again, I don't like to get political here on the Don Sullivan Show, but it is really interesting how European and American tour companies make so much money off this unbelievable place with this unbelievable group of people that are so physically and mentally capable of supporting such tremendous endeavors that we would not be able to do on our own. I haven't met anybody here that hasn't been incredibly positive with tremendous smiles, and most of them are, I guarantee you, great athletes and don't even know it themselves. So we've got to rest now, maybe come back on tonight. It's still snowing, raining. We're back in the tent. The overall time we trekked today was about 8 hours. We went up 4,000 feet, came down 4,000 feet. Probably did about 8 miles. I'll have to check. I'm not really sure. But it was a fun accomplishment, I'll tell you that. All right, so at least for today, we will see you until tomorrow. So everyone, now that we are finally down, I thought I would get back on. I should say, now that we are finally in our tents and out of the sleeting rain and off of the slick rocks, I will give you some reflections. before we actually descend 5,000 feet tomorrow, Sean and I have elected to do days 9 and 10 of the hike. Remember, this is a 12-day trek and a 9-day hike. A 12-day trek and a 10-day hike that we have now chosen to do in 9 days, because we're going to do days 9 and 10 together. Mostly because we want to finish. It is a 5,000-foot descent. It is not going to be easy. The terrain is going to be rough, at least for the first half of it. We will have our guides and porters with us, who are, of course, invaluable. And we will get it done. But some reflections on this today. The pace on the way up seemed somewhat slow to begin with. We were in headlamps for the first 3 hours, and it was extremely cold. I was legitimately concerned about the infection in one of my fingers. I very foolishly did not have mittens with me, and one of the guides gave me some. I had 2 pairs of gloves on, but that was insufficient. I'm not sure the mitten really was either. But once we got to the top and the sun came up, or we got to the rim and the sun came up, things got better. I did have some significant issues with my breathing being out of whack, as is the case that happens almost all the time in Colorado over 13,000 feet. And now that I'm on and will forever apparently be on Cardiaval until they rebuild my bicuspid aortic valve, should I actually survive to age 75. Which I think loyal listeners of the Don Sullivan Show may have their doubts about. I certainly do. But it was absolutely, utterly amazing. The sunrise was incredible. Being up there was incredible. Looking down in the massive craters were incredible. It was very, very exciting being up there at a total height, I believe, of 19,341 feet. I do expect that will be my personal record for height, although Aconcagua at 22,995 feet is not totally out of the question. The Colorado Mountain Club does that every couple of years. I suppose I could potentially do that. My back does hurt, but that's, I guess, to be expected. I chose to wear my pack, to light pack. I do plan on doing a much longer hike with a heavier pack in Alaska in July, which we will have a whole series on as well at Wrangell St. Elias. But I really wanted to test it to see if it was just possible to do. So it's a bit of a problem, but it's certainly better than it was back in the summer. So we will see how things go. This overall is a wonderful experience, and I would recommend as much as possible that all of you potential tourist mountaineers like myself consider doing something like this at some point. There are 7 summits that make up the 7 highest summits of each continent. Of course, Everest and Elbrus and the Denali Summit, legally named Mount McKinley, and Aconcagua in South America. Not sure of the others. There is some debate, as I've mentioned before, about whether or not Elbrus is actually in Europe or not, and if not, the highest peak there is Mount Blanc. Very difficult technical hike. I have done a circumvention around Mount Blanc, one of my favorite expeditions ever. That was 11 days, and it was a wonderful thing to do. So something to consider. But it is tough. We started out with a group of 8. 2 people helicoptered out. 2 people didn't make it to the summit. 4 of us did. And we all got caught in the terrible weather on the way down. The 2 folks who were behind Sean and I were a number of hours, 3 hours behind us. And one of the members of our group, when he got in, looked at me very earnestly and said, "I just left it all out on the field, and I have all the respect in the world for that." I'm not going to reveal who I'm talking about here, but he is definitely a person you should have respect for. So I'm glad he and his wife were able to make it. So 4 out of the 8 of us made it. And I suspect everybody will be getting down at some point. So I just wanted to add in this little interim segment, mostly to summarize. And now that I'm a little bit calmed down in the tent, feeling better, Sean is feeling fine. And tomorrow will be again, a very difficult, very tiring day. I suspect that I will be allowing the porters to help me a little bit more as we go down some very steep spots than I have in the past. But we will finish, and I will definitely add some photographs into the show notes for this particular episode. This is going to be a short episode overall, but it is by far the most impactful, as Sean and I and some members of our group did make it up to the summit, and we saw all of the sights at this crown of Africa. And well, until tomorrow, until we start on our way down, or at least until I finish, we will leave it at that. And like I said, until then, we will see you. Well, folks, today was the last day of the great Kilimanjaro trek. As I said to you in the last segment, which was last night, Sean and I and the group, well, not the group, Sean and I decided to do days 9 and 10 down from the camp at 15,000 feet that we were staying all the way down to 8,000 feet in one day. So yes, my legs are hammered, but we did that just to get down and out of the freezing rain, which again rained all day. So all 9 days of this Kilimanjaro trek were raining and snowing and sleeting and cold and miserable, especially in the morning. The rest of the group decided to stay up and do both days like normal people and come down tomorrow, and then they will be done. It was pretty amazing coming down, descending from the barren wasteland of nothing but rocks into brush, into lush rainforest, really. I guess I'm calling it a rainforest because it was raining even when it wasn't raining, meaning that the trees were so wet, the rain was dropping on us, and we were sloshing through the trail. Very similar to my adventure in the east part of Yellowstone Lake on the Thoroughfare Trail in late August, and then, of course, the Great Columbia Expedition to the Lost City. But that was hot and humid. This was cold and humid. But we got down. I got a nice certificate that says at age 63 I actually peaked or reached the peak of Kilimanjaro, and the highest point in Africa, the highest freestanding mountain in the world. Not quite sure exactly what that means, but that's what it says. So we're not done yet. And a totally next episode, the last and final installment of Mount Kilimanjaro subseries of the Don Sullivan Show, we're going to go over and take a little 4-day safari in Serengeti National Park and see what kind of animals we can see. And I bet you they'll be big and fast, and I got a feeling it's still going to be raining. But you know me, I wanted to wait until after the Super Bowl to come to come on this particular trek. So I left the day after the Super Bowl and missed the Olympics, missed Jack Hughes's overtime goal to win for the USA on the date of February 22nd, the 46th anniversary. But in this particular case, as was said in one of the media outlets, no miracle was required. So I missed that. I missed the Olympics. I missed the start of the spring training. We'll have a little bit of discussion on the World Baseball Classic, and it will be pretty as we come up. But for now, again, I digress as usual, and we will be over the next couple of days in the Serengeti National Park. So that's it for Mount Kilimanjaro, and it is an amazing, wonderful place. But I will say this is the end of this episode for this set of episodes having to do with Mount Kilimanjaro. But I gotta say it, because it's going to be a whole different episode, next episode in Serengeti National Park. But I gotta say it, because it's always true. No matter where I am, whether it's the bottom of the Grand Canyon or whether it's the top of Mount Kilimanjaro or one of the 14ers in Colorado or talking to my friends in Silicon Valley, yeah, I still have some, about AI or whether it's me enduring some type of medical event. Which is going to be happening soon. I will tell you, and leave you with this one thought, and you all know what it is, that all at-bats are situational. See you till next time.